Welcome back. I am super excited today because I just sat down and spoke with one of my star Low Content Profits Academy students, Stacey B. Low Content Profits Academy, as you probably know, is my low content publishing course that I teach my step-by-step system that I personally used to start generating six figures on KDP. Now, Stacey has recently been having a whole lot of success on her own. She's been having 5K US months and recently had her very first $500 day. So I wanted to sit down with Stacey and learn all about what she did to get here. And she delivered. She delivered lots of really useful information that I think you're going to really love. So let's not delay. Let's get right into my conversation. I bring you Stacey B. If you're new around here, my name is Rachel Harrison-Sund, and I help people generate passive income selling journals, planners, notebooks, and more on the Kindle Direct Publishing Platform. If that sounds cool to you, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell so you can be notified every time I put out one of these videos, which is each and every Monday. Hi, Stacey. Thank you so much for talking with me today. I'm super excited to have you here and talk about some of the amazing success you've been having over the last few months. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, let's get right into it. First, why don't you tell everyone when you started publishing low content books and how you got started with it in the first place?
Okay, so as you know, I got started with you about 2 years ago, the beginning of 2020, almost 2 years ago. And I had been previously in romance fiction and really didn't find it was my thing. And there was just crazy things going on in that area. So I jumped over to audiobooks for a little while and found if it takes 2 or 3 months just to get one audiobook up, for me, it's not fast enough. I like to kind of go and just get stuff done faster. So started with you and your course, and not a graphic designer, still not a graphic designer, but definitely I'm finding some good success. So I'd say almost 2 years at this point.
Right. So that's when you actually joined Low Content Profits Academy, right? I think it was at the beginning of 2020-ish.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. So, okay, how many low content books have you published so far over that last, year and a half to 2 years?
I'd say there's probably 700.
Wow. So you've definitely been active.
I was active, and at the beginning when I was just getting going, I was doing a lot of it for practice. Like I'd start with something really simple like sketchbooks or just notebooks. And because I kind of had a little bit of a fear, like I'm not a graphic designer, I don't know what I'm doing, I didn't do my own covers and things like that. I just wanted to get used to the system. So I just tried to put stuff out there and get used to it, not really necessarily expecting myself to get anything in results in terms of monetary, but just to get used to the process and learn your system. So
Right.
That's kind of where there's a lot of books out there that really didn't need to be, but for me it was a learning curve, and I was totally okay with the experimentation time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So you were kind of just, content to dabble a little bit just to kind of get the hang of things and, kind of, I guess, refine your process.
Yeah,
and kind of start small and go from there.
exactly. And it was also just getting used to what kind of keywords do I want to use, what do I want to use for categories, and just really starting to look at what works, what doesn't work, and kind of just starting to follow the system, but actually actively doing it at the same time. And as we know, sketchbooks and notebooks, incredibly competitive market. So it's not like you're going to, shoot to any kind of big sales at that point.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So out of those 700 books, how many of them would you say at this point are generating sales, like either have ever sold a copy or are generating consistent sales?
I would actually say there's about 100. And I looked it up because you asked me this a while ago and I'm like, I have no idea. And I said maybe 40, 60, but recently I looked and it was about 100. But some of those are stragglers and some of those are definitely my money makers.
So would you say out of that's in terms of how many have sold kind of at all, or those are the ones that are selling?
No, in many more than that. But in the last 3 months is what I looked up. And basically there's kind of a steady 100 that are going through.
All right. So those are kind of your consistent sales. And then you've got
right.
probably that middle swath of books, that have kind of made a sale here, a sale there, but they're not kind of your consistent sellers.
Exactly.
Okay. So would you say then that you're experiencing that 80-20 principle that I'm always
1
harping on about?
million%. Absolutely. When I kind of drilled down on taking a look at what was going on, it is exactly what's happening. It's the 80-20. And it's funny because there's a lot of books out there that I put a lot of effort into. The covers are amazing. And I'm like, and they've done nothing. And yet other ones where I just don't expect anything, they're the ones that seem to take off, and they took barely any work at all. So there's just no rhyme or reason, but that's okay. It
I
does what
know
it does.
I have experienced that so many times myself where I've put so much time and effort into a particular cover, and yeah, I don't know, it'll just flop. And then I'll kind of slap something together. Like, I mean, it's still a quality cover, but maybe not as much effort has been put into it as some of the other ones that I personally prefer the style of. And
Yeah.
it just takes off for some reason. And, I've heard a lot of other people say the same thing. So
Yeah.
there
And
really is
honestly,
no accounting for taste sometimes. And
no, not at all. And I have to tell you, as I mentioned, and you know this, I'm no graphic designer. I typically will hire out my covers, but my top 10 books are books I actually created in KDP. One of which is just simply all blue with white text, and that's it. And that is my all-time top selling book. So there was nothing wrong with also getting in there and experimenting with the KDP cover creator, and then seeing what you can get out of that too.
yeah, that's amazing. I've never used the cover creator, and I am honestly surprised to hear that you had so much success with using
Me
that
too.
KDP cover creator. I remember
Yeah.
just opening it up once and going like, nope.
It took me
So,
a minute to get used to what the heck was going on in there. I definitely had a few choice words for it, but once I got a little more, understanding with how to work it, it really is a tool that people could experiment if they're not people who want to do their own graphic design and just feel like they want to get some stuff out there. I mean, you still do a good job with it, but it
right.
does not have to be an immaculate cover like I know yours are.
So, okay, after publishing 700, I mean, that's no small number. That's a pretty big amount of books. Is there anything that you've kind of learned over the course of producing such a large volume of books, or anything that you're doing differently now than you were doing at the beginning, or just, I guess, just general takeaways after putting out, because, we learn so much after each new book we put out there, and you kind of learn different things along the way.
Yeah,
Is there anything off the
definitely.
top of your head that you can think of?
Well, here's what happened. I'd say the initial books, probably between the first 0 to 6, 9 months, I was probably getting some sales from books that I actually went in there and did some serious keyword research on, and category research. And I also chose to do like a really good job on description. I put a lot of time into that. Like, I was almost like writing sales copy. Not that it was overly salesy, but I just wanted that to be enticing. I see a lot of great books out there that don't have good descriptions or titles, subtitles. And I'm like, how do you even get to where you're at? So I'm like, okay, if I'll make a little extra here and put a little extra time in, maybe I can see some results. And I think that is one of the things that worked, but probably primarily was really experimenting. Like, I remember my first book that I had the most sales with was planners. I think it was 2020 planners. And I didn't think at all I would get anywhere with that, because it's such a competitive niche. But there, like you said, with the 80/20, there was a few books that just hit and got great reviews. And I also focused on, a really nice interior quality of the book, which I also hired out, because at that point I wasn't even trying it myself. So it was just mostly effort and kind of being a bit more conscientious about what it is I was putting out and how I was doing it.
Here's a question. How many books did it take you to put out there, like low content books, before you got your first sale? Did you get a first sale from your first book, or did you have kind of like a string of books that you put out that had no sales?
It's funny you should say that. Actually, I just had one sale yesterday, and I'm like, how did you even get out there? But it's one of those stragglers that you talk about that will once in a while kind of show up. But no, I can't even say that I would count that as a sale, because maybe I'd get $1.38 out of it. So I was kind of pricing them low. I just didn't care. I just wanted to see something kind of come up. And it did, but I can't say that it was really making me a lot of money. I mean, maybe a few bucks a day. But I think at that point, it was my planners that started to kind of make me some money, where I see several hundred in a month. And prayer journals, to be honest. I was doing some kids' prayer journals too. That also took.
But okay, so your very first low content book that you published, did you make a sale on that book?
On the first, okay, yes. But that's my little sketchbook that it was a cute unicorn, and it just here and there I like maybe I made, if I was lucky, $20 that month on it.
I'm just
But I
asking
just,
because there's a lot of people that will publish their first book or maybe even 5 or 10 books or even a few more and,
yeah.
don't even experience any sales on those first few books.
Well, okay, let me put it this way. In all fairness, there was about 10 different sketchbooks and only maybe 1 or 2 of them took. Like, and right back to the 80-20 rule that we were just talking about. So
Right.
really, 2 of the books took a little bit, but most of them did not, to really, be honest with that. It was not like it was a moneymaker at all, but it was nice to see that, oh, okay, cool. If you can make a couple dollars here, then you can kind of get a little more encouraged that, yeah, this is real and this can work.
Right. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about your income generation journey over the past, since you started? I think that's
Okay.
obviously what everyone wants to know here is how much are
Okay.
you making now? How long did it take to get to where you are? And then after we'll go into a bit about like what your actual process is and things like that.
Okay, for sure. So the reason I kind of like shudder a little bit is because I was so bad at really following your system at first. I was procrastinating. I was doing it really part-time. But that being said, I was putting out a lot of books, as you saw. So sometimes they'll catch and sometimes they never even show up and never make you a penny. So I would have to say the first 6 to 9 months of doing this part-time, but definitely putting in some effort, was making me around $500 a month, give or take. And
So
then
just before you go on, can you just kind of clarify what is part-time for you?
okay, I'd say probably between 5 hours and 15, 20 hours a week. So
Okay.
maybe
So
an
fair bit,
hour a
fair bit
day.
of time.
Yeah, when I started to get some of the books out there, yes. Yeah, especially doing the quantity, because it was just, yeah, it was not a good leverage of my time. But yeah, there was a little bit of time, but I can't say that that was consistent. It really wasn't. I mean, some weeks I would do nothing. Some weeks I would put some time in and get some books published. So I didn't have a system where I'd have 3 hours a day focusing on keywords, the next day on publishing, the next day on finding more, categories and books to get into. I really had no system. And that I kind of fault myself for not being further ahead, but it's okay. It was a learning experience still.
Right. Okay. So when did you start making a little bit more of a consistent effort and,
Okay.
how
Around
did that
this,
time commitment grow if it did to where
yeah, I'd
you've got
say
to now?
probably, I'm like, okay, this, if I can do 500 a month, then I can probably do more and better. So why don't I get more focused? And around the 9-month mark, sorry, you're gonna hear my dog now. She's getting excited. Around the 9-month mark, I started to really get more focused on, I want to find a really good niche to get into, and not just kind of in the planners or in the sketchbooks and things that are extremely competitive, like prayer journals. So that's when I dug in, and I was making, after, I'll get into that for a second, but I was, after about a year with doing that, I was making about 1,000, 2,000. And then, currently we'll get to what I'm doing currently in a minute. But the one thing I did to start getting some real movement is get in there and spent literally a week looking for a niche that I wanted to get into, that I thought was a potential in terms of, I wanted to have traffic numbers less than, or sorry, more than 1,000, like you talk about in your course, for a few good keywords. And then I also wanted to have less than 1,000 competitors for a good few keywords. And until I found that, I wasn't publishing anymore. And I finally found it. And it was actually by fluke. I just took a wrong turn, or well, I won't say a wrong turn, but I took a turn. I
Sounds like you took a right turn.
I guess I took a right turn. Yeah, exactly. And I ended up in a niche I never in a million years thought I would do, or never thought I would enjoy, but I actually love it. So that's what boosted me to the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 mark in terms of when after about a year and a half.
So you took an entire week and just dedicated that to research.
That's all I did. All I did was look.
Are you able to put like a time, like hour amount on
I'd probably say 2-3 hours a day.
Wow.
And
okay.
I was like copying and pasting books. If I saw something that had a really good description, that I would make a note of it, because there's also like a lateral education too. What somebody's doing, for example, in prayer journals, can be transferred over to guest books or anything if they're doing something really well. So I started to take a look at what people were doing really well, or people who had really excellent BSRs and were clearly around for quite a while and making a solid income. And I realized I started to work in a way where I was doing what I wanted to do rather than what I should do. So I'd start publishing books because they were pretty and they were fun. I could just do it real quick and I'd get them up. And sure, it might have added to some income, but it wasn't really adding to long-term profitability, I think, because I didn't have the proper niches that I could really start to get a kickstart on in order to actually grow the business in a way that was going to be competitive at that point.
Right. So you kind of didn't have the research to sort of back up the books that you were
Yeah, I mean, I
creating?
had done some research, but I realized it was just extremely saturated and I wasn't getting in there with ads and things I needed to do in order to get found, in order to really break through into that market.
Right. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about what your overall publishing process is? I know you mentioned that, you might outsource a couple of the different pieces of the puzzle here. So just kind of take us through your entire process, kind of
Sure.
from start to finish.
Okay, well, I'm laughing because there really was no process, especially to start with. And so I'm giving you my errors so people can learn from my mistakes and not make the same ones. But there was no process. Like I said, I was just kind of doing what I loved. Here's what I did do that was good. For me, I didn't know anything about making covers. When I tried to study and learn and get in there and do it, I just found myself frustrated and I didn't like it. So I basically hired somebody on Fiverr for that, which worked out very well. I also initially hired out somebody to make my day timers and journals and prayer journals and things like that as well, because there's no way I was going to get in there and do it properly. And I knew I wanted a good job. So I did that. So not that that's a process, but it's something that people could either struggle with, or if you're not getting it done and if you get stuck, hire it out if you possibly can. So I started seeing some money and some income from that. In terms of process after that, I'd say the next process step that I took that was the big difference maker was finding the niche and spending some time. And I actually took myself through your course 3 times. And it was because I knew I wasn't following the steps. I'm like, let's go back. I wasn't using a checklist. And I said, okay, let's just go right back and revisit what I should be doing here. And I realized I wasn't looking at a lot of the numbers, the search volume, the competitors, the things that needed to be addressed, like what's the best categories. I wasn't doing that research. So I started to kind of take myself more through the process of your course and start to systematically follow it. So I'm not sure if that's really answered your question though.
I think so. Let's talk about a little bit more the nitty gritty. Like, were you batching certain parts of the process or anything like that? Or at this point, were you still kind of just, grabbing whatever time you had and kind of just working?
No, God, no. No, I wasn't grabbing. I was kind of just getting in there when I felt like it. I had some other stuff going on the side. So at that point, it wasn't like it was a make or break. So I have to say I was quite lackadaisical with it, but there was no system or checklist. And I think those are the 2 things I most regret. Or like I said, I'd probably be a lot farther through. And I wasn't working through the system. For example, I very well could have had so much better results if I went in and I requested categories like you suggest we do, or for books that did well that start to slide, I should have been in there and changed out some keywords, but I just wasn't doing the follow through or the follow up, and I didn't have a process until a little bit later. Then what I started to do was realize I want to just kind of try a little bit of this myself. So once I found the niche after about a year that I was telling you about, and I got in there and worked it, I wanted to make my own content. So I thought, okay, this part I knew, you want to have a unique selling proposition, you want to have high quality books. So I bought my competitors. In the particular category I was in, I wanted to be comprehensive. It's something where there is many different angles you could take, but I wanted to be comprehensive. I wanted to do it better. And I wanted it to be something that I'd be proud of. So once I actually put stuff out that I was proud of, and even if they were my own covers, like I said, like blue with white print, it is consistently getting 4.5 and 5-star reviews, which made me feel even better and gave me motivation. Not necessarily a process question in terms of now I've changed your subject, but I think it was really starting to work on a niche that I could see that there was a potential in, and leaving the stuff behind that I either didn't enjoy or I hadn't researched properly.
Right. So is that kind of when you started to see your income increase? Is when you started to get a little bit more serious about,
Definitely. That's
following
when
the steps and giving yourself a little bit more structure?
by getting in there and actually doing the research, the actual category and niche research to get a topic that gives me a chance to make money is exactly when I saw a turnaround. So my $500 or whatever, 750 went to 2,000 to 2,500, 3,000 after about a year and a half. No, but about after about a year mark of being a bit more consistent. But when it comes to me and being more consistent, I mean, it's not consistent, but it is putting in some effort. So I didn't have structure every single day at all, but I did have focus where I was keeping it in my mind, and I knew I wanted to get more serious about growing the business in a way that was more responsible and reliable, and was growing quality content books that was actually getting strong and high feedback and reviews, so that I could potentially see it going long term.
So you may have already addressed this earlier on, but how many hours a week are you dedicating to this now? Now that you're up to, the $5,000 US mark.
Okay, I keep laughing at your questions because some weeks there's like 20, 25 hours, and then some weeks there's like this week, 4. So mind you, it's only, what day is it? Wednesday? Okay, fine. I got a few more days.
That is the beauty of passive income though, right? I mean,
it really
you
is.
built it up to a point where if you want to take some days off or a week, like you can do that. And the
Absolutely.
money is going to keep coming in for the time being. So, I mean,
Yes.
that's why we're all here and, pursuing this type of work, right? Is so that we can
Exactly.
do
And
that for
here's what I
ourselves.
found is when you get more consistent and you build for long term, rather than just the experimentation mode, and you're trying to get in there and get used to how to load it, what keywords, just the whole beginner process is extremely important. And I would suggest going in there and looking at it like it's an experiment, and you're going to learn from it. So don't take it too seriously. Go in for the knowledge, the education, seeing what other people are doing well, and make it more of like information gathering. Have fun, try and find a niche that you like. But the biggest turnaround for me was getting in there and finding a category that wasn't overwhelmed with competitors. And I can't believe I forgot to tell you this too. There's one thing that I did that also helped my numbers grow that I didn't do at first, which was I found what I call a sub niche. So for example, let's say we have, this is not my subject, but let's say for example, it's guest books. So everybody and their dog has a guest book. So why not create a subcategory? So do it with a theme, get in there and find, or do it with a theme, like let's say for the Christian family, and you have Christian quotes that people would enjoy seeing when they go through the book, or do it with a humorous theme and make, and add a little levity, because that's when some people like. So there's all different kinds of sub markets in any category, in any niche. And I highly recommend doing that. No reason not to experiment with it at all. And you're not going to find it in a keyword. You're not going to see guest books humorous necessarily, or you may, but probably not. But try it anyways, and just kind of use reasoning, common sense. What's a group of people in this market that would be a subcategory that would appreciate something different, and then try it, even if it's a dog theme or guest book for dogs. I don't know, it's kind of cute and kind of hilarious. Do a complimentary book for dogs and dog parties. Who knows, we can be pretty silly about dogs, and mine's currently on my lap. So just experiment and have fun with it, but try and stand out any way you possibly can.
Yeah,
it's
I think
not
that's
all about
a
the
really
cover.
great point. And I think a lot of people should be doing that when they find a niche, is to look at what are the exact audiences already being served, and then try and pinpoint one that isn't being represented, and you take that angle, like find any little angle that you can get in there that isn't actually being served at that moment.
Exactly.
That's a great way to capitalize in a niche that on its face looks too competitive.
Right, exactly. And if they have there's so many logos, for example, in some areas that are just the same over and over. It's a butterfly, or it's a bird, or it's whatever. But try and find something different where people see it. It's not just a heart. It's something unique and something different that makes you stand out. And that's what you want to, I think, start to when you start out at the beginning, you don't take this part too seriously. You think about it for the future, but you want to be easily identifiable. And then another thing I'm just starting to do as a process, as we were talking about a while ago, is doing some cross promotion. So I realized in the group of books that I'm doing right now, there's a complementary category, and I'm like, holy moly, I can't believe I didn't think of that. And so now I'm creating a book, actually a series, to go along with that, to market inside the books of the ones that are doing well first. So I'll put them in the 100 probably, but at least the top 20 that I'm selling, and then start to get creative in terms of subcategories in different complementary categories as well. And so think long term, but at first think brand and quality and going long term in a market that you have a chance in. And then you can see your way to different pathways that will come as a result of that.
So when you say cross promote, I think what you're talking about is, you know, I've purchased one of your books and I'm inside, and like on one of the pages, you've got pictures of your other books.
Exactly. So on the inside cover, I've got a couple pictures of, I'm doing exactly what I kind of said. I've got a complementary category, and I've got 3 images. One is humorous, one is Christian, and one is, no, I'm forgetting. Oh, just an elegant version. So it's got a kind of different, kind of classy look to it. So yeah, it's just saying this partner book, this is a partner companion book too. And then I have that listed below, and I'll do that for both books. Yeah. So it's just free marketing and advertising for other books that you have. And by the way, it's also a different keyword, or sorry, not a keyword. Well, keyword, of course, but it's also a different pen name. So I'm putting the pen name, and then I'm putting in partnership with. Okay. And then I've added my pen name for the other group of books as well.
So you're actually cross promoting pen names between books as well?
In this case, I am doing that experiment. Yes.
Oh, wow. You'll have to keep me posted on your results there. I've never actually
for sure
done that or anything. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
okay. Speaking of pen names, how many pen names do you have?
I have about 7 or 8, probably about 3 that I use the most, but about 7 or 8 that I can think of anyways.
Okay. So are some of those kind of like not dead, but ones that you're not really like focusing on, but they were experimental?
My Sketch-It notebooks are long. Yeah. And my planners is kind of long gone, because it was 2020, 2021 that did well, but I really thought, no, I don't want to focus on that for 2022.
So sorry, how many did you say that you're focusing on right now?
About 3. Well, that's not true. I mean, and probably 4, because I've just added this new one as well.
All right. So that sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And have you done much in the way of branding on any of them yet?
Sadly, no. And this is where yes and no. On the cover and the theme of the cover and the way that I create it, yes, you can see that it's the same series of books. However, in this category, just like with a guest book, it's like a one-off book. Well, you could get maybe more than one on guest books, but it's a one-off book. So it's not really that leverageable, if that's a word. So no, I wasn't doing branding the way I should, and a number of other things the way I should, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
Well, you've clearly done a lot of things right. So
really, the biggest thing I did right was give myself a chance to succeed in a category by doing a lot of research, finding a niche that wasn't oversaturated, and then finding a couple different angles where people appreciated. Those were my biggest sellers by far, were the Christian version and the humorous version by far.
So, okay, let's just talk. We'll go back to research for just a quick second here.
Sure.
What tools are you using, if any? Like what does your actual keyword research process look like, and what tools are you using?
Okay. For the keyword research, I'm using Rocket, KDP Rocket. Keyword, is that what it's called? KDP Rocket.
I think it's Publisher Rocket now.
Publisher Rocket.
KDP
right.
Rocket.
Yeah, KDP Rocket. That's how I think of it. Publisher Rocket, that's right. Dave Chesson, he's fantastic. The tool is excellent. Great way to do your research for your categories, as you know. I think you show that in your videos, which I absolutely love. And it also, it doesn't show you necessarily the number of competitors these days, but it gives you enough information where it is the biggest time saver a person could have if they want to get serious about doing this as a business. I highly recommend it. It's a one-time payment.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely my favorite tool.
Right. And then I'm honestly not using that many tools. The other two things I do use is the Amazon Quick View, and then also the suggestion expander that you talk about in the course as well. Totally invaluable. And then once I started making sales and I wanted to see what was going on and what books were selling and see it at a glance, I also use Get Book Report as well, which is what made me realize that it was actually 100 books that was selling. I'm like, how do I even look this up? Because I never use really KDP. I hate admin stuff. I just don't, I'm so non-patient when it comes to the left brain, as you can tell. So those ones have been invaluable for me. And I'm sure there's more I could be doing, but those ones I would say are the top. Not Book Report if you're just starting out, until you're making a few hundred or more.
And that's just the reporting software.
Right. It's a reporting software. It shows you what you're making and how many sales, and you can
and
go
you
back.
Get a little ka-ching sound every time a sale.
Yes.
I remember I used to use Get Book Report, and I remember there came a time, which was a very exciting time, where I had to turn that off because it was just going all day long.
I've had that too, but I mean, I have this little game with my boyfriend, and he's been very supportive of this whole thing. And I'm like, anyways, but we have the update game. So if you're just starting out, this is a really fun thing to do. Is like, what's the update at like noon or 3 o'clock, or there were the days we didn't really talk about this, but in the last month or two, I had my $500 days, and the thing was going nuts. It was going nuts all day long. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I had no idea why this was happening. So that cha-ching was actually a little too much, but I loved it. So it was fun.
Yeah, it is a great problem to have, where you have to turn off the ka-ching sound because it's just going all day long.
Absolutely.
And yeah, okay. So what was that like for you, having your first $500 day?
It was utterly ironic. And here's why. And I don't think I had mentioned this to you when we first reconnected. Was I had a book and it had hit 40,000. And so in my mind, I'm like, and it was my blue and white one, my absolute no graphic design capability necessary whatsoever. But I had a goal and I wanted it to hit 29,000. I'm like, no, I want to see something in the 20,000s that hit 40,000 BSR for the sales rank. And so crazy of all crazy, the next day, this is when these cha-chings kept on happening, which is the sound of a sale. And I made $3 probably, give or take. So I took a look, and I just happened to be starting to watch the BSRs because I had created this goal. So I went through a few books. I go to my book report, I go to the top book, three books. And for some reason, 3 books went from, I don't know what they were before because I hadn't looked, but they went to 3,000 BSR, 4,000 BSR, and 4,500 BSR. Far exceeded the 29,000 BSR that I was looking for. Sales rank. So it went nuts. And then probably 3-4 days later, I got that other book into the 20s, and then lower even after that. So it was a complete and total fluke.
Did you do anything to celebrate?
I don't think I did.
Okay, you got to get out there and, like, I don't know, buy a pair of
shoes. I got to start drinking or something. I don't know. Not a big drinker. I think that's when my boyfriend and I started the update game. He's like, oh, what's it at now? Because he gets as excited as I do. And I'm like, okay, hold on. And I have to go into the other room, go to the computer and find out. But it's a really fun thing to look forward to. Now, just as a heads up, people should know that with this business, your numbers can bounce up and down. Yes, it's just the nature of the Amazon algorithm. But it's just a really fun thing to look forward to as a goal, in terms of let's get consistent and see numbers coming in. And even if they bounce around, it's okay, because you know what you need to do. It's a process and you stick with it.
100%. You got to look at averages, average every day over a month over a year. Because if you focus too much on the ups and downs, it's a recipe for a nervous breakdown.
100%. You're on an emotional roller coaster, and you're going to have really bad days when it drops a little bit lower, and then the next day it's like, woohoo.
Well, and the more you make, you're going to have months where it's like you make, 12,000 one month, and then you might make 8 the next.
That too.
So, a $4,000 difference. I mean, that's pretty significant, but taken over the course of a year as averages, it all kind of averages out. So
but the important thing is
you got to get right off that emotional roller coaster ride as fast as you can.
Absolutely. But stick with the process. And there's a quote a previous mentor said to me. This was doing online stuff, affiliate marketing way back in the day. And he said, like, for me, I'll find I get stuck. I'm like working on this, for example, like a series right now. And I'm like, I don't know how to work through this. So I'm like, okay, well, you could work on something else and or come back to that later. But anyways, the saying that has always stuck is it's better to have it 100% or eight, sorry, it's better to have it 80% and on the web versus 100% and in your head. So
Yes, yes.
don't let speed bumps stop you from getting something done. Even if it's not perfect, don't get set back by that. Keep it going. Keep the process going.
Yes,
So
that is 100% my mantra for sure. Get it
I've
out
done it many
there,
times.
launch it ugly, just get it out there and learn, and put it out there. And
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Just learn from what you're doing. Otherwise, you can sit on something, wait for it to be perfect, and it never happens, and you'll never get anywhere.
exactly. Like I a while back with this particular book that I did myself, and I am no designer, let alone doing it in Word, and we know how good that is. Or not.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I have to give you one of these for that.
I know. But it was like it was all I knew how to work with. But I was worrying about the formatting, and I'm like, wait, the shift button, the space button was a little off from the right page to the left page, and I was getting all. It took me hours, and I'm like, nobody's gonna know. Like nobody's gonna know when you're turning the page. It's like it's okay. And these are the books I'm getting 4.5 and 5 stars on average. So you make the quality content. If there's like something so small that it's not really going to make a difference, keep going and don't get hooked up on that.
All right. Well, I do have to say, I think you might be the only person making 5K US a month
Using
designing
Word.
their books on Word.
Guilty. Guilty for sure.
Well, hey, maybe that sends hope out there to someone else who's designing on Word right now as well.
Yeah, and it's okay too. It's still a learning process. And my goal was to learn just enough to kind of be dangerous and know what it is that worked or what I liked or what kind of content I wanted to kind of create. But then it's okay to start leveraging that stuff out if it's taking up too much of your time or if you don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be my next goal for future books.
Before we move on here, tell me quickly about your pricing strategy, because this obviously has a lot to do with how much income you're actually generating.
Okay.
Based on
So
sales.
for the series that I was talking about that did quite well, that was actually one of the factors that I took into account. I'm like, you load it into KDP, you see what the book has to be, what the pages are, and how much money you're going to make. And I had made it so the minimum I wanted to make was $3. And then so I have a pricing strategy of $8.99 for the cheaper one, $9.99 for the more expensive one. Other people have, and this is for paperback, other people have 10, 11, 12 for fewer pages, lesser quality. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, because I kind of found that the sweet spot was $8.99, to be honest. It's my slightly cheaper books with the same quality that have been doing the best. Well, that's not true. The 350 ones have been doing fine. Those were the 350 ones were the ones that were my crazy sales rank books that just went ballistic. What I do though for hard copy or hardcover is $2, because I think that the printing cost is so high. It's just marketing. You're just priced right out of the market. So I'm like, I'd rather have it available in hard copy in this particular niche. It's very it's something that people want, and so I'm going to give them, even if I take a lower amount. And I think it also looks more professional having the option of having a paperback and a hardcover.
100%. So you're trying to make sure that your royalty is $3 for paperback and $2 for hardcover.
Right.
I think that's good for people to hear, because sometimes I talk to people and they're maybe making like 50 cents. So
okay, if a person's doing like I don't know, a 40-page little book or like like a thrown together coloring book or a notebook or something where that's what the average price is and all your margin is very low, sure, and you're just getting started, sure, try it. But keep in mind, for long term, you want to try and get in there and research categories where you can make more money, because you're going to leverage yourself more success out of doing that. And I'm not saying you can't make great money in lower amounts of books, but I actually did a test on that and I found it did absolutely nothing. it went nowhere for me. It was, I try to make it 9 or 10 out of 10 quality, and then price it at about a 7 out of 10, in the sense of I'll give them more for a little bit less, so that people are appreciating that they're getting a bit of a deal, but they're also getting the quality.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that didn't really work for you?
No, that worked for me, but
Oh,
if
that
I
works.
went too low, I found it actually didn't, and I don't think they even thought the quality was there. So I did that once, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, I found that too. Like it kind of has the opposite effect where you kind of get um like there's less of a perceived value the more the price dips. When the
Exactly.
price goes higher, people there's a higher perceived value. So I've always had success, you know, pricing my books at $1, sometimes even $2 more than what the kind of the going average is.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see where there would be an opportunity for me to do that. And I think that it would be more successful than if I went the other way and tried to do very, very low return on investment kind of thing,
Yeah.
in terms of the margin.
All right. So the other thing I'm sure everyone's dying to know here is, do you spend any money on advertising? And what, if anything, do you do to promote your books?
No, and I should be. I told myself, I think it was a year ago, that I was going to start the ads, and I never started the ads because I got busy doing the things that I liked rather than the things I didn't want to do, or I didn't want to learn, or whatever. So no, I haven't been advertising, and to be honest, I'm ashamed to say I haven't even been doing email campaigns, which I am now starting to do.
All right, I'm going to point my finger at you for the email campaigns, because that's the first and easiest thing to do to get going. And especially, you know, if you're having like hundreds of downloads a day, those people could all be on your email list. So that's the only chastisement you're going to get.
I know.
Regarding the ads, I think it's probably really reassuring for a lot of people to hear that ads are still not necessary to get going. And now that you've had some success, if you do go down the ad route, which I suggest you do, because ads are just going to amplify your results.
Exactly.
But you've already kind of proven yourself. You've proven your niche. You've proven that you're making sales in whatever this niche is that you're in. So this is like the perfect opportunity to start testing out ads now. I think a lot of people kind of put the cart before the horse and think that, you know, a book with no sales, ads are going to kickstart things, when really it's the other way around. You should be generating sales first, and then you want to use the ads to then amplify the results that you're already getting.
Absolutely. And I think the really important thing before you start an ads campaign is having high score reviews, hopefully. And hopefully quite a few of them also that kind of prove the value of the book or the credibility of the book. That's one thing that made me feel a lot better when I started to see, and I'm now starting to track, actually, the reviews are getting added to every day now that the quantity of books is selling more. Then you start to see, oh, okay, this is great. You know, another review every single day in the same 4.5, 5-star level is great for, you know, getting in there with doing the ads, and then you can justify the spend. But I think that there are definitely, it's not necessarily 100% necessary. I would 1000% agree with you. Get started with the marketing campaign. I could have had my database of hundreds of people, as you're saying, that I could have sent across the email to, cross promoting the book that I'm now coming up with. That's so complimentary. I can't believe I didn't think of it before. So don't do what I did and learn from my mistakes, and work smarter, not harder. I think that's one of the biggest things. And like I said, I'm one of these impatient people. I completely admit it. And I like to just go, keep it going. It's the busy work, and it's not necessarily the smartest route. The smartest route is following your system step by step, create a checklist, and follow through with it. And when you see you have books that are selling and they stop selling, change out the keywords. Most importantly, make sure you've requested categories from Amazon, because you're going to get seen, and you're going to get those sales very possibly back up. So yeah, I haven't been doing my ads, haven't been doing my branding, haven't been doing my email marketing.
Well, I mean, it's amazing to see that you've had such amazing success with absolutely no promotion whatsoever. So, I mean, we're going to have to touch base in the new year once you've got your email list and your ads going, because I want to hear about how your results have exploded after that, as I'm sure they will.
For sure. And there's one more thing too. This is, well, we haven't really talked about this yet, but something that in the complimentary book that I'm starting to do right now, one of the things that I also realized that I was not taking advantage of that costs nothing is doing a series if the market that you're in justifies having one. And where it can be like a keepsake book, for example, for your son, for your daughter, for your mother, or your grandmother, and so on. And these are all like multiple spends. This isn't just a one-off book where, you know, you're not going to necessarily need to buy it again. And that's the market I'm in currently. So now I'm thinking, okay, the next time I really go in and dive in, I want to create a series. I want to be more methodical and look for working, like we're talking about, working smarter, not harder, getting the email marketing campaign and doing it right though, like not spinning my wheels as much or as long, and building the system. So if there's a takeaway, Rachel, that's for sure at today, for me anyways.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more questions that I'd love to ask you before we head out of here. First, I want to know if there's been any challenges that you kind of had to overcome to get where you are at this point now.
I would probably say my procrastinating is definitely a challenge. I'm like, I like speed, like I like to just go. I don't like to sit down and necessarily get focused. So that's probably one. And I would say the other one is no, like these are repeats of what we just talked about. It's not having a system or not following the system. And it's not like it's the challenge. Like if I wanted to get a book cover done and I don't know how to make a cover, I'll buy it. Okay, I can get that. I can get over that hurdle. Or if I don't want to do the interior content, I did the same thing. That's fine. I'll get over that hurdle. But the hurdle I didn't get over was working smarter, not harder, and having the system. So I'd probably have to say, be consistent and have a plan. And if you can, write down what you're going to do for the week, even if you do it at different times of day and you're like me and you don't want to do something the same time every day, at least have a goal of what you want to get accomplished and have it on paper. And then really, number one is follow your system.
Amazing. So,
yeah.
So what are your goals for 2022?
Okay, well, we're going to have to start with the email marketing campaign now, aren't we? Oh my goodness. It's going to be, okay, with all the errors that I have just admitted to, honestly, it's going to be basically correcting those things. It's going to be having a checklist, having follow through, having weekly goals in terms of what I want to accomplish. And sometimes when I did that, I absolutely had way more results than when I don't have a goal in terms of what I want to have done and I make it for the week, not for the month, not 6 months, not a year, just get to a week and what do I want to have accomplished, the steps. And I think that's one of the important things is if you focus on the system and not on the dollar amount, you're going to get the dollar amount. And I think for me, that's the most important thing. And when you start following the system and you see $5, then you know that $5 can turn into $10 and then $20 and then $200 and then $500.
Yes.
So it's a process that works. And here's how I would summarize that or give you an analogy. It's like baking a cake. I mean, you pour all of these ingredients in, you absolutely don't see this thing rising before it happens. You wonder if it's going to actually work. But if you follow the system properly, it's going to work. It is a proven system. Follow Rachel's proven system because it literally does work. And if you want to know what not to do and save yourself a lot of time and get there faster, don't do what I did.
Well, and come on, you've done a lot of stuff right. You wouldn't be making $5,000 a month if you were doing
it. But it was the single thing that I did right that actually helped elevate me, to be perfectly honest. And that was spending a week saying, I'm not going further until I find myself a niche that I know I can compete in. And the goal was less than 1,000 competitors, more than 1,000 searches a month for a few solid, good keywords. So that, and then adding a couple sub niches in that niche, I call it sub niche, is really what absolutely made my results. So if you take away following a system, looking for these unique little angles, doing something different, standing out, then you're going to have results and your cake is going to rise and you can put as much chocolate icing on it as you want.
I love your analogy. So now you've got me craving cake.
And I have a sweet tooth.
I think you pretty much just already answered this, but you know, if there's anything else you want to add, what do you think has been the biggest factor in your success?
This is the one thing that I think is the biggest factor. When I see constant 5 stars or 4.5 stars over many books, then I feel good about it. And then I know I'm building for long term. Then I'm seeing my review scores, go up every single day. I would say build for quality, which means building for long term, which means building for success, which means justifying putting the work in for an email campaign, justifying building a brand, justifying eventually doing an ad campaign should you choose to do it. That if you go slower and build wiser, it's going to be solid, and it's going to elevate you faster in your results than if you kind of throw things at the wall like I did. You don't need 700 books in order to make a decent income. It's far better, smarter, harder, follow the kind of things that we've been talking about and the suggestions in terms of where I've kind of had some missteps, but still kept going. That was another thing too. Keep at it. And if you have a wall, get into your Facebook group, ask the question, and then get over that wall one way or another. If you don't like doing it, hire it out. If it's something you're stuck on, ask the question. If you don't know the answer, if you can, and it's a KDP issue, email KDP. But don't let anything stop you. Keep it going. And if you take 2 months off and you're like, darn it, I slipped, it's okay. Keep getting back in there, because you've already had the education and the learning curve that will keep you going to the next level if you keep going.
Amazing. Now, do you have any other tips for any fellow low content publishers out there who are just starting out right now?
Yes. It's a system. It's a proven system. I've done it. I've done it slower than I wanted to, but it's okay. I've still done it because I did one critical step right. But if you do more than one critical step right, then you're going to get there faster. But it's literally Rachel's system I followed. I didn't do anything different from what she teaches you. But what I did do was get serious enough to say, I'm not going to the next step unless I find a niche that I know I can succeed in by following the guidelines that you have laid out in your course. The most important thing is follow the course. And it's okay to accept it as a learning curve. Don't be hard on yourself. And second thing too that I found really boosted my results was enjoying the process. When I was working on things I really didn't want to work on, I didn't want to work. But when I started doing things I really enjoyed doing, or I knew I had just enough knowledge where I could fix it or get in there or start doing KDP thumb covers that look like crap, but I mean, they don't look like crap. They're just blue with white text. Then it doesn't give you a reason to stop anymore. It gives you a reason to say, okay, let's just try this and then see what the results are, learn from it and keep going.
I do want to point out that 1.5 years, that's pretty decent. I mean, it took me probably about that same amount of time. So I think that's a very realistic time frame for anyone that's watching right now.
Yeah.
I mean, $5,000 a month, that's pretty substantial income. I think by most people's, frame of reference. And, to be putting in a lot of that was part-time effort for quite some time. I think that's totally realistic and doable. So, personally, I would be very happy with that time frame. And I think
when you put it that way, actually, I shouldn't be as hard on myself as I probably am.
You definitely shouldn't. I think it's totally respectable. It feels doable, I think, for anyone watching. And I think it's really reasonable. I think most people are doing this as a side thing. They're trying to fit it around already busy lives. And
yeah.
I think it's a perfectly reasonable time frame and something that's really, worth shooting for.
Yeah. And if there's a mistake, or I mean, I've done things where I've put in a description and it came out completely muddled, that back in the day was HTML that they were using and things. Just don't worry about it. Like, honestly, if it's a mistake, just keep going. It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. Just fix it, learn from it, and keep going. And being the non-technical person that I am, there are ways to get this business, or this, I don't even want to call it a business. It is, but there's a way to get things. There's a way to get this done that you most enjoy it. So do it the way that works best for you. Follow the system and keep going, and you will get results.
Well, thank you. I guess we'll leave it there. It's been so nice talking to you, and I can't wait to hook up with you again in the new year and hear about all of your success, especially after implementing the email campaigns.
I've got the evidence on video.
I want to hear about how your results have been after amplifying your results with the ads.
I look forward to talking to you about it, especially even just starting with the email campaign and cross promoting and getting in there. I mean, there's lots of work to go around in terms of what I need to do, but I'm going to start smart, like we talk about, and start with email campaign. But the process is there. Just follow the process. And thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. You have been my inspiration, as you know. And
Thank
for
you.
all the online courses, I have absolutely enjoyed this one the most, which is probably why I'm finally seeing some results.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I want to congratulate you on your success. I think it's absolutely awesome. I'm so thrilled to hear that you've been raking in those consistent sales. It's absolutely amazing. And I know everyone that's watching has probably got a lot of value and great tips out of this. So thank you.
My pleasure. It's great to see you and happy to talk to you. Thanks, Rachel.
Take care.
Thanks, you too.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that useful and inspirational and helpful on your own journey toward your own low content publishing success. If you're brand new to the entire idea of low content publishing and you're looking for a place to start, you can start with my free guide, 3 Steps to Publishing Your First Low Content Book in Less Than a Day. I've left a link to that down in the description below. I've also left a link to my course, Low Content Profits Academy, which you can check out as well. All right, thanks again. Please do hit the like button and subscribe and share this video with your friends if you think there's someone out there that might find it useful. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.